So dear participants, our guest speaker for today, Professor Bala Ramadurai sir, is with us right now. There will be a small introduction about sir. Please do listen. Thank you.
Good evening all. It's our pleasure to introduce Professor Bala Ramadurai. He is an innovation consultant and an executive coach. He has 3 patents to his credit and more than 10 publications in international research journals. He holds his PhD from Arizona State University and BTech from IIT Madras. He is a trainer and professor of the courses like Design Thinking, Creativity and Problem Solving, Technology Forecasting, Creativity and Innovation. His current teaching and consulting areas of focus are technology forecasting, inventive problem solving, entrepreneurship programs. Thank you, sir. We now request you to take over the session.
Thank you so much for having me here for this meeting. I'm really excited to be part of your long series of very good speakers, and I'm very proud to be in the midst of your mission itself, which is very inspiring. And whatever little experiences I have, I'll definitely like to share them with you. One of the organizers, Narendra, has been a student in my class, and we've had lots of learnings in the process. So some of this I'll be sharing with you in the topic of design thinking itself, which is something of interest to me. And I have sort of picked up a lot of case studies in the process, and I love sharing it with students and faculty and getting some ideas on this. What this design thinking is all about, how is it connected to innovation. This is something of interest to me, and I see lots of my colleagues and students equally interested in the topic. So I'll start sharing my presentation here. Yeah. So I hope you can see my presentation. I'll just give you a moment before I start.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We can see it, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you for the confirmation. It always helps. Hopefully everybody is safe and secure at wherever you are, and this is time for really relooking at our own ways and methods, so to speak, of anything we do: business, education, academia, corporate, anywhere you go. This is something that's key according to me. So what I will describe in this time with us together for the next hour or so is on a topic called design thinking and how it actually leads to innovation. I thought there are certain topics that are covered, which you will know why I've called it Nirvana. It's not just being flippant, but it's going to give you a very basic idea of what design thinking is all about. Where does it fit in the broad scheme of things? These are my coordinates, so to speak, in case you want to connect with me. I have my email there and my LinkedIn as well, so you can feel free to connect with me even after this, so we can work together. If you have questions even after the talk, you can definitely ask me over email or on LinkedIn, or if you want to subscribe to my blog. Here is something that I write once in a while to about topics of interest to me, ranging from meditation to how to organize your life to core topics like design thinking itself. So these are some things that we can certainly do. So let's start with what is this design thinking. I've mentioned it so many times now. So let's start with that basic premise. Take a guess on the chat window. I guess if you can guess who this personality is on the picture. It's certainly not me. Yes, I've started growing long hair because of the lockdown. I cannot get to a hairdresser. My wife jokes that I'll end up looking like this. Just take a shot who this personality could be. Okay, I'll probably take a look at the chat once I figure out how to get to the chat. Yeah. Just feel free to guess who this could be. Galileo is a very good guess. It does look, you got the era right. You got this field also right. Oh, lots of them are getting Galileo. Okay. Copernicus, one of them says. Okay. Any other guesses? Somebody even said it looks like young Abdul Kalam because of his hairdo, I guess. Okay. One of my students said that. I did. Okay. Mona Lisa. Okay. Okay. Good guesses. Nice. Okay. So I think you got the era right. You got the okay. Someone else guesses something else. Very nice. So this is indeed Copernicus, Nicholas Copernicus. He was a Polish astronomer from Poland, and you can see what he has in his hand. That's what he tried to prove, that sun is right in the center of the center at those times. In his times, people thought that Earth was the center of the entire universe. So everything that you see around yourself is actually revolving around us. The only thing that is static was planet Earth, is what was believed back when Nicholas Copernicus was around. He, when he modeled with a lot of data from other people, said very, very long, and so it didn't feel right. It somehow he didn't think that it was correct. So when he came up with the heliocentric model, that is the sun being the sun being the center of the solar system, it made a lot of sense in terms of equation, because the equations got a lot simpler. It could explain the data much easier. So then he didn't immediately go out into the world and say Earth is definitely not the center of the universe. That's all rubbish. He didn't do that. He actually was very scared, and towards the end of his life, he published his works, and people didn't like it. I mean, people said this guy's crazy. There's no proof. I mean, look around ourselves. Everything looks so static. That's what everybody believed back then. So years later, it was proved that Earth is not the center of the universe. Okay, but in design thinking, we flipped the whole model on its head and say that you know what, Earth is still the center of the universe. That's what we believe. In design thinking, we believe that the humans are the center of our universe. So if you are designing a product or a service, it doesn't matter. Humans are right at the center. So that's why it's called human-centered design or human-centric design. So it always starts and keep revolves. So you guys, students and faculty, are my customers. So everything that I have to think in terms of what product do I give you, what service do I give you, I have to keep you in mind. So you are the center and I revolve around you. So I have to find out every time from you what's going on. How do I do this? How do I improve this? So it starts and ends with the human being. So this is the big shift, according to me, from a product-centric or a service-centric method to a human-centric design. Okay. So this is one tagline which I think is pretty much sums up what design thinking is. You think about the human being and right at the center. Okay. Now, little bit of history. I love telling stories. So here's one story of this about this event that happened. Okay. You've been good audience. Any guesses? Where could this place be? And what is the event that this sculpture depicts? Guesses? Let me look at the chat to see if you have any guesses. So where could this be? Okay, which place could this be? World War, somebody says. Good guess. Where could this be? Which place on planet Earth could it be? Soviet Union, good guess. clue, look at the top right. I don't know if you can see the top right hand corner. It's in English and some strange language. So that's a World War. Okay, that's a good guess. Okay, Soviet Union again. Germany, good guess. There's another clue on the left hand side. There's a brand. That's why I guess you got Germany. Okay, I know why you're thinking that. Some kind of European country, maybe UK. That's a good guess. Maybe it's UK. UK is a very good guess. Where in UK could this be? So you gotten closer. Where in UK do you think it is? Okay, France. Somebody says. Okay, nice guess. Okay, US. Okay, they're driving on the left-hand side of the road. If you look carefully, London is a good guess. Okay. Okay. Good guess. Any more guesses? Okay. All right. So England is a good guess in UK. So here's the. This is in Ireland. Okay. This place is in Ireland. The city is Dublin, the capital of Ireland. So this is a sculpture depicting a Irish famine way back in the 1850s. This was a big catastrophic event, pretty much wiped out 25% of Ireland population. It's called the Great Irish Famine. So a famine is the lack of food, right? So people lacked food and they were starving, and it was a pretty bad sight. Okay, so keep this in mind. This is the backdrop. This inventor by name John, I'm not going to expand it right now. We'll get to that. John was a mechanical engineer, and he was in England back then. And he was from a wealthy family. He was well-to-do. He had no problem with money. Money was certainly not a problem for John. He, after becoming a mechanical engineer, he started working for steam engines. Why steam engines? Because that was like the IT era of the 1850s. Everybody and their brother-in-law worked for steam engines. Okay, so steam engines was where everybody started working. So John, being John, also went and joined a steam engine industry, and he did very well. So he started like what in the software parlance would be a developer. From then he moved through the ranks, manager, senior manager, and he was doing very well. He was on road to being one of the top guys in his company. Then, if you have heard of the IT parlance, he went on site. On site means visiting customer site, customer location. So John went on a customer location visit, and that was in Ireland. So he went when the famine was around. So when he looked around, he was disturbed. You know, the famine was going on. He felt emotionally disturbed, and he came back to England, and he said, man, this is something very, very sad. I have to do something about it. So he said, I'm going to resign my job and I'm going to work on making their situation better, because people were people were starving. They didn't have food. He said, I have to do something about it. But he was a mechanical engineer. What could he do about things in Ireland? Okay, so he had to do something that was his forte, his strength. So he said, I'm going to do something in mechanical engineering. Okay, so he said, okay, let me look at it. What is causing this famine? Famine means the lack of food, right? So what food is the main food of Ireland? Even today, it is considered one of the main foods of staple food of Ireland. So potato was the main food of Ireland. Okay, so they do a lot of potato farming. So John said, potato farming. Even we in England also we grow potatoes. So what's the big problem? So apparently it happens that water stagnated. Okay, water stayed still, and that led to this blight. Blight is a dreaded disease which ruins potato crops. Okay, it's a bacterial disease. It ruins crops, and when there's no potato, there's no food. Okay, got it. So why is there stagnant water? Even in England, we have the same crop. We don't have any stagnant water. We grow potatoes just fine. Turns out that Irish soil is a lot lumpier in soil conditions. It's very hard to break with normal plowing. And what did they have for plowing? They had horses. Okay, a plow, something similar to what you see in the picture. So a horse drawing a plow like this was struggling. They were struggling to break the soil with this traditional plow. Okay, and so he said, "I'm a mechanical engineer. I'll help in better plows. That should fix the situation." So once the soil is broken, the water doesn't drain, water drains well, and then blight goes away, and then people get the potatoes back. Okay, so he started redesigning this plow in his own ways. He built a lot of features. He redesigned. He thought of several things. He visited Ireland many times and paid attention to how they were farming it, how what were the habits of this. He was paying close attention to this. Of course, all under his company's banner. So he was doing it in his own company. Okay, and then he designed something like this. I don't know if it's very clear, but something like a saddle where a person would sit with a little steering wheel up there. Okay, so this is the saddle. This is somewhere like the steering wheel here, and there's another steering wheel on this side. So on the onward journey, the person would sit on top here and then move to the other side and the return journey. So it would be back and forth plowing. They go back and forth, and they would do the plowing. So it looks quite ugly, but that's got the job done, right? So now what happened was horses were fine. They were doing the job. So what he did was to get more power out of it somehow. He would plant the horses outside the field because they would get stuck in the mud, and that would slow them down, not getting enough power. So they put the horses on the side so that they can give more power. Okay. Now what happened was, while like IT industry of now, things are evolving so fast. Same way steam engine, with so many people working in steam engine, it evolved faster. The technology evolved faster, and rail engines became portable. Okay, portable means much lighter. Okay, that was one thought that ran in John's mind, that can I replace the horse with a steam engine? Okay, that was one of his things. I worked on steam engines. I know how it works. I can bring it to the field, right? So, but the big problem with steam engines was that you needed a track, right? And it was too heavy. So one part of the answer was solved, which is portable steam engines, but it still required rails to go. Even it was lighter, you still needed rails. So he said, well, let me get down to the drawing board, and let's redesign the wheel of a steam engine. So he designed a large, funky looking wheel and a small wheel so that he could maneuver this beast. Okay, so he put the large wheel and the small wheel and put a steam engine on top and put it on the side um, of the field for delivering power to this plow that he had. And like this. Okay, so this is the his invention. Like I said, the guy sits here while controlling the plowing. He added this is the large wheel which controlled the plowing itself, giving the weight and breaking the soil. And on the right hand side, you can see that he added cool features like seeding also. So not only is it plowing, it's also even seeding. He added more features to this. He was totally excited. So with this excitement, he brought in customers for field visit, and he said, why don't you look at this for buying for yourselves in Ireland, maybe in other countries? So people from other places also came in, because this is a cool invention that he had come out with, and they were very interested. And then they looked at this and said, what's that on the left? I'm really interested in that. Okay, so they looked at this beast here with the funny looking large wheel and the small wheel with a steam engine on top, which could be maneuvered. Okay, so John was like, come on guys, I made this one, not that. I also made that, but this is the main thing of interest. They said, with a portable steam engine like this on our fields, who needs horses? I'm going to replace them and do it much better, efficient. And looks like your wheels can even go on muddy surfaces like this. That definitely is better than a horse. I'm going to take that. So he got lots and lots of orders for this particular beast. And you might have guessed, it does look familiar, right? So the funky looking wheels, the large one and the small one, and an engine on top, and somebody riding on it, the front wheels being for moving around. Guess what it's called? Could have guessed it by now. Most people guess it by now what it's called. But anyway, I'll open it for guesses. Do you don't know what it's called? What could it be? Let me look in my chat. Did you get what it is called? Okay. Can you guess what that instrument is called on your left? That's the question. Okay, any guesses? No guesses so far. Let me see. Let me give you some time. Okay. Train engine, steam engine. Okay. Okay, it's all correct. What you're saying is correct. It is a steam engine. It is borrowed from the trains. One clue I'll give you. Those wheels that they're doing, they were called traction motors. Okay. So they were actually traction motors, basically to get traction with the soil. So that's the main reason why we had a wheel itself in the place. Absolutely, somebody got it right. So this is a predecessor of the modern tractor. So traction motor is the long form and tractor is the short form of that. And you can see this as the modern version. Still has that large wheel and the funky wheel and the small wheel which is meant for moving the beast around with an engine on top. Of course, now we have a diesel engine on top of it. Mahindra is one of the largest manufacturers of the tractor in the world, and they happen to be my customer, and I put this just to please them. This is shot in the US, so this is a tractor sitting there. So this is still in operation, and this is John Fowler, who is the inventor of the tractor. Uh, Quite by accident, that became a success compared to his plow, but we know him for his greatest invention, tractor. We won't have food if not for his beautiful invention, right? So what is the moral of the big story that I told you? Okay, this is design thinking. If you look at it, I'll tell you how it is design thinking after you know what are the steps. It's totally design thinking. This is design thinking all along. It is hard. I mean, it took him almost 10 years to gain success. 10 years or no pay, nothing. He was in his own company. He was going back and forth between Ireland and trying to figure things out on his own. Okay, it's unpredictable. He wanted to sell more plows and the de-seeder, I'm sorry, the seeder. But what did he end up with the tractor? The invention of the tractor comes absolutely unpredictable and difficult to learn. I mean, oh wow, John Fowler, we know is one guy. If it was easy to learn, everybody would have picked it up. So that was a big deal in that. So what is our challenge now in design thinking? How do we make design thinking easy, okay, predictable, and easy to learn? Okay, now how do we make this? That is the interesting challenge here. Okay, so bear these questions in mind. Let's see if we can answer them. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background before we head on to the core of design thinking itself. Okay, some bit of background context in which we all operate, our organizations operate. Okay, so if we look at a very simplistic model of a company or an organization, be even academia or non-profit organization, they operate under this simple premise. You take ideas, implement them in the form of a service or a product, and you get revenue out of it. Okay, even for non-profits, you do have to get revenue. Okay, so something, the balance sheet has to be zero. Okay, in companies certainly you need revenue. Those come from services or products. Okay, it's both these are equally valid. And where do those services and products? They come from ideas which are implemented. Okay, that's the key right here. Okay, but where are these ideas coming from? I mean, for what are these ideas generated? These are meant to solve problems. Okay, so there are problems, tons and tons of problems to be solved. Okay, for that, and then we create these services or products. Simple so far. This is sort of the basic premise under which we operate in organizations. Okay, now problems, there again, problems are not in thin air. They come from somewhere. Where are these problems coming from people have lots of problems. They have tons and tons of problems they face on a daily basis. People who are other people like John Fowler, who are sharp, they look at it and say, I'm going to try and solve these guys problems. They're facing a famine here. There's no food. I'm going to fix that. Okay, he takes that problem and he starts generating ideas, and then he starts making a service or a product and a revenue. Okay, now imagine the situation that you've done all these 3 steps, found out what is it that they really want. You mind that, you really put your brain and said, I'm going to solve this problem once and for all. I'm generating ideas, those sparks that come in, and I'm going to create those. And you're ready with the service or product creation, and you give it to your customer. Okay. For example, so one of say one bright engineer comes up and said, I have this amazing product, okay, and you will love this, and you're standing right in front of a railway coach, something which is similar to this, a beautiful railway coach. This can travel, I don't know, 100 miles, 150 kilometers per hour. It has Wi-Fi, uninterrupted Wi-Fi. It can travel from X to Y in what takes 6 hours will take you only 2 hours. It looks, there's just advanced signaling system, that this, we have implemented everything in this. Okay. And then when you're about to enter, you're totally impressed. Somebody comes and does a big spiel on what this is. You're completely impressed. And then you say, you just about to board this beautiful piece of train, railway coach, and they tell you, I'm not sure if at some point of time the wheels will come off, the roof may come off, the wiring may come out. I don't know. You ask, why would that be? Then they tell you, reveal that we've not really put it on real conditions, the real field conditions. We've just put it all together. We want you to try it though. Of course, it's great. But then you start looking and said, oh no, I have that job to do somewhere, and you just slip out giving all sorts of excuses. You don't stick around. Why did you do that? Simple. They didn't test the product at all. Nobody will like untested products. Completely untested products, they will not like a particular full product or a service. Okay. So we need to have something in between. That's the testing part between ideas and service or product. Completely logical. Everything we started, we assembled it. It all looks very nice and nice and clean. No problem with that. So what I said was, I will focus on the first 4 steps, is people, problem, ideas, and testing. But how do I get to this? So I get to problems from I understand what people are going through, through empathy. So empathy is this point of understanding people and feeling what they are feeling. So you get a so you're putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and then figuring out what is it that they're going through. Okay, that is empathy. That way you can figure out what their problem is, how you can fix that. What is it that the situation they are in. Okay. The second part is, once you know that, you can't just start working on it straight away. You need to give it some thought analysis of what is it that the problem that really is going on. So you examine it with like what Sherlock Holmes, the detective, does. You look at it when very carefully and find out what is the exact problem, what they're not telling me, unsaid latent needs are there. I'm going to dig that out, and then only I'm going to get to the solve stage, which is the next part, where you pour in your creativity and you generate ideas, you generate these concepts, and see how the problem in the earlier stage is solved. You have to make sure that it's solved. And it's not enough if you just think of ideas and be happy that I've come up with a great idea and just sit on it, do nothing. You have to make it and test it. Okay. So in fact, it is not even enough if you just make it. You have to test it also. You have to test it first independently yourselves, and then when it is ready, you take it back to your customer. So you started with people here in the people stage, and then you move on to the test phase, where so we started here in the empathy, and then finally we're back with the human being in the test phase. So that's why, see, it looks like we're revolving around this human being, right? So that's why I said it's human-centric design. So that's what we do. Okay. So at this point of time, I said, this is great. It looks like a great process. It looks very systematic. I think it's implementable. And I said, has this ever been done before? Or is this the first time somebody has, are there any case studies out there? Has somebody actually tested these things? I wasn't quite sure. Will it last the test of time? I wasn't sure at all. So I don't know how many of you like traveling, but I love traveling. So I decided to go to this place here that you see on the screen. Okay. Now, any guesses where this place could be? This is guessable. This is. Let's see if you can guess where this place is. Look carefully, very closely. Can you guess where this place could be? Any guesses? It's not so difficult. Okay. Hmm. Maybe difficult, huh? Okay, Arizona. Good guess. Okay. You put one and one together. This guy probably spent some time in Arizona. This looks like Arizona. Maybe that. Okay, look a bit closely. Okay, any other guesses? Where could this place be? Okay. Okay, this is actually right here in India. This place is definitely in India. In fact, it's very close to where I am. I am right now in Pune, and this place is very close here, about 250 kilometers from here, near a place called Aurangabad. And these are the Ajanta caves. Okay, so I was planning a trip to Ajanta caves. I don't know if you can look closely here. Let me mark it here. If you look closely here, there are some holes in the wall. Okay, so those are the caves. Okay, so I was, and I said I'm going to I'm going to read up about what is this story all about. Wow, how what's the deal with the Ajanta caves? Okay, so what I found out was that this was lost to humanity. People didn't know the existence of Ajanta caves for about 1,000 years. Okay, did not know. So uh, uh, it's just clouded everywhere. So apparently in the 1800s, all my stories seem to date back to 1800s. This is the early 1800s. There's this British soldier by name John Smith who was on a hunting expedition, and he came up to this point here on right on top, so he could look down below here and see that people were crossing. Yes, this is a river. This dry bed during the monsoons, you'll have water. So the people crossed the river and went inside this and hole and disappeared. Okay, he was curious, so he trekked all the way down here, crossed the river, and went up to. Oh, wait a second. Oh, sorry, maybe he took that tour. Okay, so he went into this to find out what is this all about. Okay, and he was amazed. He was amazed at what he saw. So it's truly remarkable. So what he saw was these caves with remarkable sculpture and whatnot, and paintings and whatnot. Okay, so there he said, I have stumbled upon history here. I am going to leave a mark. So he knew that he had stumbled upon history, and before he could report it back to the archaeological survey, he wanted to leave a name for himself in history. Like, you go to this interesting monuments, you will see, I love Kala and all that, people writing right on monuments. Same way, John Smith also said, I am going to leave my mark also in this culture. He went inside cave number 10, and I went into the near the pillar, far end, and on top about 8 feet from the ground he scribbled his name. Okay, and I have a not so clear picture. The light conditions weren't good, so I shot this picture. I apologize for that. I hope you can read his name, John Smith, there. So JOHNSMITH. Okay, I don't know if you can see it. Just let me know if you can see it. This, uh, let me know if you can see the signature, his signature. No, somebody says, oh, I'm so sorry, can't see it. Guys, cooperate with me a little bit. Maybe you can see it a little harder. JOHNSMITH. That's what you'll be able to see. No? Hmm. Strange. Well, you're right. You can't see it because that's a fake picture. This is the real picture. This you should be able to see is JOHNSMITH. This is surely you can see this. Oh, sorry. Okay, John Smith right here, and 1819 is what the number says, the year in which he wrote his name. Um, uh, so he scribbled his name and left it as a mark for all of us to, and this also has become part of the history. So that's why I took a picture of this. Okay, so and then I went all across, looked around, and I was. Very happy to look at what all Ajanta caves has to offer. It has things like these paintings which are well preserved. This is one of the most famous paintings called Padmapani. On the other side is Vajrapani. Both these are very, very famous pieces, works of art, about 2000 years old. They've been preserved because it was lost to humanity. There was no moisture or people taking flash photographs back then for 1000 years. So it's very well preserved. Of course, now it started deteriorating. Even with just 100 to 150 years, it started deteriorating. Now archaeological survey has sort of they let people in batches so that and monitor the humidity and all that to preserve the painting. They've restored it very well. Okay, it may sound like I work for Maharashtra tourism. I do not. Okay, but you should go and visit these caves. These are really, really nice and fancy. Oh, by the way, don't get any ideas. That's just orange juice. Okay. Uh, one of the beautiful pieces of sculpture is this Nirvana, Nirvana in cave number 26, which is where it shows a picture of reclining Buddha. As you can see, bottom row shows people weeping because people are crying because Buddha is leaving them at the end of his life, is attaining samadhi. And they're captured very well in stone, and there's a row of angels on top that you can see. They're all rejoicing because Buddha is going to be with them soon. Okay, so as you can imagine, this is all about Buddha. And I said, wow. Again, I was still doing this, research and online and trying to figure out what is it that Buddha said that that was so important, was so worthwhile, that lots of people have talked about him for so long. There's a religion following his principles. So I wanted to find out what is this core idea behind what he said. So apparently it happens that 49 days after his meditation near river Gaya, I think, in Bodh Gaya, he sat under a tree and he attained enlightenment. He went to walked all the way to Varanasi and near a place called Sarnath, a deer park there, and he to an assembly of five of his students, he gave his first sermon on four noble truths. That was his first sermon after meditation, and he revealed four noble truths of life. That's what he realized in his meditation. Okay, and those four noble truths, the first one is called dukkha. Dukkha is the acknowledgement of suffering, that there is suffering in the world. Okay, due to old age, due to disease, due to death, due to loss of possessions, loved ones, all that, there is suffering. Let's acknowledge that there is suffering in the world. So that's where it starts. The second of his truth is called samudaya, where he talks about, okay, now that I know there is suffering, why is there suffering? Do meditation, perform a penance, or ask your neighbors, ask your mentor, ask your friends, community, find out why is there this suffering. How what is the reason for this suffering? The third one was Nirodha, put an end to suffering. How do I come up with ideas to end this suffering once and for all, so that I don't have to go through this suffering again? Okay. And the last part was Marga, on walk on a path to end the suffering. So it's not alone if you know how to end the suffering, but you should walk on the path to end the suffering. I jumped with joy when I read this. I said, this is amazing. Because what I had thought as the four phases of design thinking was empathize, which is acknowledge that there is suffering with your customers. Okay, service or product, they have suffering. Okay, analyze that why is there suffering, what are they suffering and why are they suffering. Can we go deeper into it? Once you know the reason for their suffering, put an end to the suffering once and for all. And it's not enough if you just think of ways to end the suffering, but you have to walk on the path to end the suffering once and for all. So that gave me a one-to-one correlation of four noble truths. And for me, this has this philosophy has stood the test of time, and I jumped with joy. But on the other hand, I felt sad. I thought I was the first one to come up with this. Only they happened to be 2,500 years late. It's okay, as long as I have proof, valid proof. Okay. So this is the four stages, four steps of design thinking. But if you remember my first title slide, it said karmic design thinking. What is so karmic about this? So what is so karmic about this is that um, I used to have a digital watch, a Casio watch. Okay, long time ago. I won't reveal how long ago, but quite a long time ago. And I used to sport it in class, and I was very proud of it. I used to walk with showing it to all of my classmates. So I was very proud of that possession. I used to use it to wake myself up. I know time my whatever there was, because there was a stopwatch, because there was a timer. I used to use the chronograph, I used the stopwatch facility in that. Okay, now so many years down, nobody wears Casio watches for waking oneself up, neither for timing it. So that device, although you wear watches these days, fancy smart watches, no longer do we use it for the functionality. So the functionality has moved on to something else, right? So what it has done is, over generations, this has been transferred to some other product or service. So that's the karma part of it, that even though the product or service may not exist, the package, the need, the function actually moves from the product, one product generation, multi-generation itself, to another product and generation. So this is the karmic part of it, where there is a carryover. Okay, so okay, I told you four steps. How do you remember this? One of my students and friend told me that there's an easy way to remember. I was surprised that this guy remembered it, and I said, "What is your secret? How do you remember this?" He said, "Well, there's a trick to it. All the first four letters of the stages start and form east. So all I have to remember is east. Go east for design thinking." Okay, so that's empathize E, analyze A, the solve is S, and T is test. So this is all you have to remember. I said, "Wow, man, that's a cool way to remember it. So may I use it?" I said, "Yeah, of course." So here it is, the mnemonic to remember the four stages of design thinking: empathize, analyze, solve, and test. EAST for short. Okay, so this is great, but it's not a single process itself, not just one flow EAST and you're done, but it's actually an iterative process. Okay, many of you may have phones which have a number next to it. Do you know what the number signifies? It actually signifies the generation. Okay, so they had to go through so many iterations, so many generations, before they figured out what is wrong with it, what is something that we can add, and in the process they actually improved and still retaining. So for example, I don't know, an iPhone 7 or a OnePlus 7 or whatever it is, the latest number, that still carries features of what is the first generation also, like calling. Hope your phone can still call. Okay, that is one of the first features that are there. So this sort of carries over. Iteratively they come up with and keep adding functionalities to this. So it's not a simple process, but an iterative process. Okay, as can be seen in this beautiful picture called the seahorse. This is not this is generated, computer generated, using repetition of a pattern, of a single pattern which is repeated so many times, so that you could see this lovely picture. Okay, this is called a fractal. This is a pattern by iterations. So your product service also is going to be um, a result of repeating this EAST process so many times over its life cycle, that you can actually you can get meaningful product for your service, meaningful service for your customer. Okay, so that's the that's basically the gist of what design thinking really is. I would like to conclude. Okay, now you can saw what is design thinking. You saw the stages of design thinking, how it is has a 2500-year-old, 2500-year-old philosophy behind it. I'd like to conclude. So now what? So how are you going to use this benefit out of this? So you can use your favorite search engine and look up for case studies to see how people have applied it. And there's a lot of case studies available out there. You can look at them and learn how they've done it. Okay, so that's something that you can definitely do. Not only as in the IT and the software, mechanical engineering, human resources, in marketing, in hospitality, in many industries, design thinking has been used, and has been the people have used this facility, this principle, this philosophy, and made use of it, made benefit out of it. Has become very popular all across. Okay, so initially it'll be a bit tough because it's the first time you're learning it, like you're learning to ride a bicycle. But the first time it was very scary, but after a while, once you did it many times, you got very comfortable with it, and then you started becoming very fluent, and you didn't even notice you're not even holding the handlebars, and you're chatting with your friend and looking at something up there. You're doing all that, with the remember the first time you're scared. So even design thinking can be like that. You can learn it through many times. You apply it and you will learn it. Okay, now if you're a faculty or a HOD listening to this talk and are wondering, how do I implement design thinking as a course in my university or college? I'm here to help you. I can definitely reach out to me. I can definitely do that. If you're I'll come to students as well, don't worry. So there are some references that you can use. You can definitely take up any of these textbooks that are freely available, or some you have to pay up. Like I really benefited a lot from the first book, which is the design book by Professor Carl Ulrich. It's a really good, interesting book with a lot of case studies in there. The second book is by a designer called Tim Brown, who started a company called IDEO, who's been very popular in popularizing design thinking as a methodology itself. The third one is my personal favorite. It is by a inventor called Genrik Altschuler from the Soviet Union, who made ideation, which is coming up with ideas, very easy. IDEO and Stanford D School or Design School have a lot of case studies also. And this is where initially learned about the Four Noble Truths. So that's another reference. I will of course leave this set of slides with you, and some videos which can help you understand design thinking, and in different stages in design thinking. Also, I collect this as a playlist, so feel free to look through these, watch these, and learn about design thinking and various steps. There are two more. So for each stage, I have collected a lot of videos that will help you in realizing what it is. Okay, so some mandatory acknowledgement, because I use open source software. I have to acknowledge where I've taken these from. These are all some software I've used to post it on my website, and pictures and all that. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to leave with you absolutely before I wind up for the day is that I finished writing my book on design thinking, and hopefully I can leave you where you can get it. You can read it, and of course I will be happy to receive feedback from you, how you found it useful, where we can work on it to make it even more richer. There's a lot of case studies, also some case studies in there, some stories, and of course the story behind how this methodology came into existence. So this can also, this is also designed to be a textbook for a course, which I am going to be using for my own course on design thinking. I plan to roll it out to other online courses as well. So this is something that you could use for your own courses. If you're a student or a faculty, you can certainly use this and start with the design thinking practice itself, be it teaching or application. Um, One absolutely last thing I wanted to share was that you can register for a design thinking my course on SWAYAM, the platform SWAYAM, or NPTEL, whichever is your preferred platform. I have this course open for registration now. We start on somewhere in the end of July. This is an entirely online course. Hopefully, when the lockdown is up, you can even write a final exam, get a certificate for yourself. For particularly for students, it is you get an IIT Madras certificate, that you can use once you clear the final exam. And the videos will give you enough material to learn about design thinking and how to apply it yourself. But I would urge you to go and apply it in real life for something that you care about. For faculty, I believe you can complete your FTP, your development program, using this course also. Many completed these courses online also, which is useful for them. For others who have registered, who are listening, who are not faculty or students, it serves as a great knowledge enhancement. If you're a company, if you work in a company, design thinking is certainly applicable. Also, you can use it in various domains, disciplines, and certainly you can benefit out of this. Sorry, I've already asked you for many favors. One absolutely last thing that I wanted to leave you with is thank you for listening, and I'll be happy to take any questions you may have. We have about 12 minutes of time. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you for patiently listening to all this. It's weird to have it online, keep on receiving, whereas in a hall we could have had a healthy interaction. So any questions, you can just feel free to sort of shoot in my direction. Oh, I don't. Huh. I'm not here. Yeah, I'm able to see the chat right now. Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay, one of the questions I see is, do I tie the standards into a design thinking project? How do I tie the standards into a design thinking project? I'm not sure I understand the question of what is a standard. If it is ISO certification sort of thing that you mentioned, ISO standards that they have, if that's my interpretation of what your question is. Um, uh, in design thinking, if it involves, so the methodology is quite simple. We start with a human being trying to understand. We don't go with any preconceived ideas. We don't go with any documentation. We don't really go with something that we already have thought of. We look at it completely open-minded, and we interact with the customer. If your standards, ISO standards, allow that, if it entertains that, then I think you can start with that. Look at where the problems are, what are they going through. Go with an absolutely objective. One way is to ask them, but sometimes they may not be able to articulate, they may not be able to say what their problem is. It is for you design thinkers to figure out, how is it that I can infer what is the problems that they're going through, what is it that they are facing, what is the situation that really warrants attention from your side. So you can look at that and then follow up with the rest of the process, which is analyze, solve, and test. So I'm not very knowledgeable on the ISO standards, if that is a question. But certainly, if it is amenable to that, I know in Six Sigma they do have a similar process where we start with the define. this empathize comes before that. If that helps you, empathize actually comes even before define. That we start with a human being, look at what is it that they're going through, and then we start defining the problem itself. So if that helps to bridge the gap, yes. Otherwise, just feel free. We can have a conversation and get this. This wonderful session. You say thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words about that. Next question is very interesting. It says, if design thinking is driven by an interdisciplinary approach, then communication between different disciplines comprises communication of methods as well. Yes, I'll take this in two parts. One is the interdisciplinary approach itself. In fact, by definition, design thinking, we encourage interdisciplinary approach. Why? Because if you are from a particular industry, you're going to look at it, you're going to apply that filter to your customer, and you're going to look at only that perspective and generate insights in that regard. Now, if you get, say, if you're an engineer, you will look at the engineering aspects, the technology aspects. You bring in a HR person, a human resource person, they look at it from their own perspective as to saying, what is the human side to things. You bring in a finance person, they look at it from a financial perspective. So you can bring in, or you bring in a computer science person, they will look at it from a systems point of view, right? So bringing in all these actually is very, very healthy for a design thinking exercise project itself, because you get these various perspectives, various insights that you couldn't have got, and you can mine that and then go on to the problem analysis part itself. So I think having an interdisciplinary time sometimes lead to friction because you now don't understand their perspective. But that's also empathy. I mean, you're trying to understand it from somebody else's perspective. HR guy says, oh, I can't do this. Then you're looking at it from their perspective. It actually helps you in empathizing also, right? So that is something that you should definitely do. Communication definitely will be a problem because they come in with their own methods, training. You will have to see how to bridge the gap, how to see where is the common language that we can talk, and hopefully design thinking with its simplistic approach can actually help see it, because I run the same sort of methodology all across disciplines, be it technology, be it design, be it human resources, marketing, you name it. I probably have with teachers, with so many people, with city planners also, people have used this. So it doesn't depend on the industry itself. So it actually is helpful in bridging these gaps. Okay, so that's my trial to understand. Hopefully it was useful to you. What should be the number one criteria to select or recruit a university lecturer in design? I'm not a recruiter. I wouldn't know the first thing. But anyway, I will attempt it from a design thinking perspective. Is design? I have interacted with designers in Italy. I've been part of teams where people are half my age, and the first thing that I saw common was that empathy is natural to them. So thinking on somebody else's behalf comes naturally to them. So that's something that I think is core to design thinking. It's a big component of design thinking itself. So if you can bring in look for such skills in your own way, test them for empathy, then that goes a long way in determining that this person is compatible with the design thinking way of in fact, it also helps in other ways. These empathetic people can also empathize with the state of students. They look at it from their perspective and actually makes the whole interaction much smoother, much easier. Okay. Yeah, that is the same question. I think what should be the number one criteria to recruit a university lecturer in design thinking? So I would say if you're looking at it from a criteria perspective, I would say look for empathy is the first skill that they should have. If they can demonstrate it through projects that they've done in various aspects, various domains, how well have they been interdisciplinary in their approach, which was what was asked in the previous question also. that will go, that will be helpful in figuring out if this person is really going to take up design thinking as a career, as a profession itself. And so I think that I naturally, empathy does not come to me naturally, so I need these methods. So that's one way of looking. There are certain people who are naturally empathetic, so you can look at them from a sort of project experience perspective and look at it, how many projects have they really delivered on, where it made a difference to the customer, made a big difference to the customer's life. Because at the end of the day, design thinking is to make somebody else's life better than what it used to be. So that is why the products and services are in play in the first place. So that's my trial to answer this question. So I think we are close to about wrapping up for today. Um, if there are any, I'll just wait for a minute or two before I can, if there are any more questions. Or did I miss any questions in the start? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Fair enough. I would say thank you so much, all of you who've been listening patiently to me, and thank you. I thank the organizers and Narendra in particular for having me over and addressing this audience. I really look forward to interacting with you. And like I said, feel free to reach out to me if you have any way I can help with design thinking projects or the course itself. Or any which way, please let me know, and yeah, I'll be happy to interact with you. Thank you so much. Have a safe
Thank you,
evening.
sir.
Good evening.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights and enlightening us with your valuable experience by taking out your time from your busy schedule. We wish this legacy and our journey in making India proud continues. Thank you once again for nurturing us, and for sure we'll implement design thinking in our entrepreneurial journey. And personally, thank you again for taking my name, sir. Narendra here.
Yes, thanks, Narendra. Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Bye.